Wake up. It's time to kickstart your day with Scripture Links. Daily dose of inspiration.
Good morning and welcome to this brand new day. This is Scripture Links Daily Dose of Inspiration for Tuesday, March 21st, 2023. And today is National Common Courtesy Day. You know, I'm going to say something right off the top, get on a short rabbit trail, but do we really need a common courtesy day? What happened in our country that common courtesy just isn't shown anymore? Because remember, holidays are days that we set aside to remind us of things. Remind us like the birth of Christ, the resurrection of Christ, our country's independence, the men and women that sacrificed for our nation. You know, various things like that. So is common courtesy something that is dead and gone? That's why we need to have a holiday to remember it? I don't know. Show someone some common courtesy today. We should be doing that every day. But today is National Common Courtesy Day. I'm going to get off my soapbox right there. All right, today we're going to continue talking about wisdom. And we're going to look here at Proverbs chapter 2. Verses 1 through 5, and we're going to see some steps that we need to take to gain the wisdom and knowledge of God, because we need that spiritual wisdom. We need that spiritual wisdom to be able to discern the things that are of God and the things that are of this world, to be able to discern the right from wrong. And the writer of Hebrews chapter 2 provides some if-then statements, and I like those things because those makes things nice and clear. You know what's going on. If you do this, then this is going to happen. Let's take a look. Verses 1 through 5 of Proverbs chapter 2. We read, "My son, if thou wilt receive my words and hide my commandments with thee, so that thou incline thine ear unto wisdom and apply thine heart to understanding. Yea, if thou criest after knowledge, and liftest up thy voice for understanding, if thou seekest her as silver, and searchest for her as for hid treasures, then shalt thou find the fear of the Lord, and find the knowledge of God." In verse number 1, we see he says, "If thou wilt receive my words, and hide my commandments with thee." You know, that's part of getting the wisdom of God, is we have to receive the words of God, and we got to make sure that the commands of God are tucked away in our hearts so that we know what it is we're not supposed to do versus things we are supposed to do. And receiving the words of God and hiding his commandments in our heart, that's something that's written about all throughout Scripture. In fact, in Proverbs chapter 4, verse 21, we read, "Let them not depart from thine eyes. Keep them in the midst of thine heart." Of course, it's talking about the commandments of God there. So if we receive his words and hide his commandments or keep his commandments with us, so that... Verse number 2, "so that we incline our ear unto wisdom," which means that we're paying special attention to hear the wisdom. Because I always challenge people that when they're taking time to study their Bible, make sure you're taking time to listen to God as well. When we're taking time to pray, we need to make sure we're taking time to listen as well. So we need to make sure that we're inclining our ear. That's giving us the idea that we're focusing in, we're paying attention here, listening for wisdom. And then he says in verse 2, "and apply thine heart to understanding." So see, we're going to receive his words, we're going to hide his commandments, and then we're going to incline our ear unto wisdom. And we're going to apply our heart to understanding. You see, we're getting steps here. We're getting closer to getting into the wisdom of God. Verse number 3 says, if thou criest after knowledge, and liftest up thy voice for understanding. In other words, if we're crying out to God, begging God for knowledge, asking God for knowledge each day in our prayers, that's where the point gets real. Where we're begging God, we're asking God, God, give me your knowledge, give me your understanding, give me the fear of the Lord that I'm supposed to have. And those are the type of prayers that God is going to answer. So he says, if thou criest after knowledge and liftest up thy voice for understanding. That's where we're asking questions from our spiritual leaders. That's where we're praying and saying, God, give me understanding here. And then in verse number 4, he says, if thou seekest her as silver, and searchest for her as for hid treasures. Friends, we have to seek. We have to seek after the knowledge of God. And if notice in these passages that we just read, how many different action words are in there, how many different verbs are in there. Look at what he says, receive my words, hide my commandments, incline thy ear, apply thine heart. Criest after knowledge, liftest up your voice, seekest her for silver, as for silver, and searchest. Those are all action words. That means that's something that requires us to get up and do something. It means that we have to be put into action. Friends, wisdom is something that I believe is a living thing. And we have to make sure that we're constantly getting the wisdom of God. That's why we need to do these things. That's why we need to ask God each and every day, God, give me your wisdom. Help me in this situation. Let me know what I'm supposed to do, God. And like I always say, if we ask, he's going to tell us. What is the result of these steps? What if we do these steps here? What's the result of that going to be? Look at verse number 5. He says, then shalt thou understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. Then, if we do these things that he mentions in verses 1 and 4, then we can rest assured that we get that wisdom that we desire. So friends, let me ask you something. Are you seeking after wisdom like we seek after gold and silver? Make it a little bit easier. Do you seek after wisdom in the same way you seek after the things of this world? Well, that's a statement and a half right there, isn't it? But we need to make sure as we go through each day and as we're praying and as we're seeking God's face that we also are asking God to give us his wisdom so that we can go out and we can do the things that God has called us to do. And if we take these steps, then true wisdom is going to come in.